Yo, what's going on, fellas? We're back with another Boruto TBV Vortex chapter review. So as you all know, chapter 28 just released today, or yesterday, I don't know when I'm going to upload it. It's going to be no later than Thursday. A lot went down in this chapter. We genuinely have a lot to talk about, because the fruit of everyone's labor is finally paying off now. And what I mean by that is basically, the last couple of chapters, it was mainly dialogue and Kashin Koji preparing everyone for the Mamushi invasion, as well as Boruto preparing himself. And in this chapter, we get to see what all that looks like. So without further ado, I think it's time we start analyzing this masterpiece. So the chapter cover this month kind of threw me off. We have Sumire holding Boruto's sword. I most definitely thought it was easily going to be Mamushi. I'm not saying I don't like it. It just surprised me. I still think Mamushi will get that cover soon though, perhaps next chapter or the chapter after that. And you'll see why I say the chapter after the next at the end of the video, because that's how crazy this chapter is. So yeah, the chapter cover is Sumire holding Boruto's sword, an item very close to Boruto. And you see she's holding it with the utmost care. It symbolizes Sumire's deep respect for Boruto and a yearn to be closer to him. Sumire sees that this sword has a deep emotional connection to Boruto, so she's treating it as such because of that. Not a good day for, how you say, Boru Sara fans, I suppose. But anyway, as we open up to the chapter, we're introduced to Enojin revealing what seems to be the finished product of his new jutsu, which at first glance looks like a giant mass of chakra. Then we see Kashin Koji and Boruto watching him, and Koji applauded Enojin for actually learning the jutsu in one day, like he said he would, which is actually a very impressive feat by Enojin, I'm not gonna lie. It just goes to show how strong and focused love can make you. Once he heard Himawari's life relies on him mastering this new jutsu, he instantly locked in, and it shows. So now Boruto acknowledges Enojin's progression. You can tell from his response, he probably didn't think he would be able to fully master the jutsu in a day, in which Enojin replies kind of hostile, still believing that Boruto is guilty of the 7th Hokage's death and committing treason against his country. So he says he's only doing this for Himawari and no other reason. He still doesn't accept Boruto because of what all he did. Then we have this funny back and forth between these characters, with Boruto replying that he also has not accepted Enojin, but in the way of him being a potential partner for Himawari. So he says if he ever makes Himawari cry even once, he'll shave his stupid head clean bald. I mean, that's classic big brother instincts right there. He didn't show it because he gotta keep the nonchalant gimmick up, but inside he was fuming when he found out that Enojin of all people had romantic feelings for his sister. I mean, even before Boruto was considered a traitor, it's not like these two characters had all that much interaction. Enojin actually looked down on Boruto for his mischievous behavior as a kid. He's always been a goody two-shoes, the exact opposite of Boruto. So I never really expected them to really gain that chemistry. So right after Boruto just dissed Enojin, he heads out using FTG, and now you're about to see why I don't want to say I dislike Enojin, but I do think he's like that annoying little brother. So after he starts something with Boruto, he went on to play victim and act like he didn't just come at Boruto. He says, why did he say something like that to me? I mean, who is he to say that when he's the one who wrecked the entire Uzumaki household in the first place? And then funny enough, Kashin Koji makes a very annoyed face to him saying that, you know when you hear someone say something that lets you know they're a geek or lame? That's the look Koji is giving Enojin. Like that, oh brother, this guy, look. Yeah, good job Enojin, real smooth. But anyway, I love how TBV Vortex keeps the serious tone, while also sneaking in some funny interactions momentarily. It's the perfect mix between seriousness and comedic relief. And the way Boruto goes about it fits his character too. His demeanor when he speaks to someone is different. Like, he has a very slick mouth. It's like he says things he really means, but the way he says it and when he says it can be pretty timely. So it just adds to the overall quality of the conversation. So after this, we return back to Konoha, and this time we see Konohamaru finishing up with his interrogation. And now Mitsuki entered. He will be the next one to be interrogated because he was also in the same room when Boruto escaped. As a matter of fact, they probably noticed that Boruto's cuffs came undone as soon as he fake attacked him. So Lord Kobu is probably going to ask him questions about that as of now. And the only other thing that goes on in this scene is basically Sai asking the sensory unit for Konohamaru's recent communication logs with a third party. But of course the conversations he had with Shikamaru is unofficial, meaning it's not being logged. This act is illegal, which is why Ino backed out of the operation of helping Shikamaru connect with Boruto. As head of the sensory unit department, it is a bad look to be breaking the rules like that. So she was never really the long-term answer for this operation. But she can easily be the end of it as well. Just because Sai couldn't find anything out from the sensory unit doesn't mean he's gonna give up. Remember, he's married to Ino, the one who used to help Shikamaru. If Ino snitches on Shikamaru, he would not only end up losing his position as Hokage, but he would also get accused for conspiring against his own country and thrown in jail for treason. And like Koji said, Shikamaru will play a huge role in defeating Mamushi, or at the very least the operation would go better with him as Hokage. And like I said earlier, you're gonna see what he means by that later on in the video. So basically, him losing his job would hurt the overall outcome of the future too. So that's why the Konoha officials cannot find out that Shikamaru was the one who let Boruto free. I have no doubt in my mind that Mitsuki will not snitch, but Ino is a very different story. So hopefully she's not interrogated or brought into the mix at all. So now we transition again to one of the more exciting parts of the chapter. It's time to see what happened with Boruto's sword. What new features does it have? Its new abilities, everything of the sword. So Boruto used FTG to teleport to Sumire in order to get his sword back for the upcoming battle. From the looks of it, they are on top of the Hokage mansion. Sumire says that the blade has been refined from its original material to a form that maximizes its strength and sharpness. Boruto notices that everything about the sword has pretty much changed, only the hilt remains the same. So then Sumire said she upgraded Hagoromo, the ability that keeps the blade from getting chipped or cracked. It's now called Boruto style Jihno blade cloak, which is basically the same thing as the regular Hagoromo, but this time, once the technique is activated, the sword automatically absorbs the user's chakra, only slightly, barely noticeable at all. This chakra is then used to coat the blade so it doesn't get chipped anymore. So now Boruto doesn't have to concentrate on keeping the blade coated in chakra, it'll subconsciously do it, which was the main issue Boruto had with his sword, and also the reason why he needed it fixed in the first place. So to say Sumire did a good job would be a major understatement. And I also made a video fully deep diving on Boruto's new sword design and its abilities, so if you want a video just focused on that, then click the video on your screen. It should also be in the description too, just in case you want to watch it after the video finishes. But anyway, the sword also has some other noteworthy features that I think will come in handy later on. Introducing the first ever sword with a security system. So just in case the enemy ever gets a hold of Boruto's sword, Sumire added a theft control feature that activates when a non-registered user grabs the sword. And when this unauthorized user grabs the sword, it's gonna rapidly drain their chakra. So the authorized users of this sword is Boruto, Sasuke, and Sumire. Those are the only people who can use this sword without it massively draining their chakra. I mean, of course, Sumire is not going to be using it. She just needs to be able to hold it so she can perform maintenance or something like that. Yeah, you get the point. So now, because of all these features, the sword is now classified as a scientific ninja tool with security features. And that's pretty much it for this scene. Although I will say for some future hype, Sumire tells Boruto that she fused a special material into the sword. That of course was not mentioned in this conversation, but like I said, it will be interesting for the future. It could have something to do with Boruto's power, more specifically his Otsutsuki power, or it could have something to do with the Shinju and a way to be able to defeat them. So hey, let me know what you think that could be in the comment section below. Ikimoto always does this. It's a way to keep the readers engaged and invested in Boruto's new sword. I suspect we'll get a flashback later on that goes back to this conversation, and that is when we'll learn more about this secret material. He did this for Boruto and Kawaki's conversation back in chapter 15, which the flashback happened approximately 9 chapters later. So that's what I feel like Ikimoto is doing again. Although I feel the gap between this conversation and the flashback that we're gonna get is not gonna be 9 chapters. Like, we're gonna get that way sooner than then. It could be as soon as next chapter for all we know. But anyway, in this next scene, we have a short conversation between Shikadai and Shikamaru, with him just explaining the current circumstances to Shikadai. And it seems that Shikadai is kind of upset upset that his father began to trust Boruto and not only trusted him, but agreed to work beside him, even though he's the one who allegedly killed the 7th Hokage. He even goes as far as to disrespect him in his role as the Hokage. So Shikamaru just ups and tells him when he accepted this job, he swore to never bend his convictions, to always follow what he believes is right, never to fold under pressure or compromise, just like how Naruto would. And this is a direct representation of that. He's not asking Shikadai to follow orders or participate in this operation, but Shikadai wants an order. Despite his feelings for Boruto, he wants to stake his life on the Hokage's orders, and mostly because Himawari is joining in the operation too. He won't be able to sit still knowing her and Chocho are out there fighting for their lives. So just off that fact alone, he's willing to help. So that just tells me right there that Shikadai is going to have a very prominent role in this mission. And I already feel like he has the most useful technique to be a part of the mission besides Enojin. He has the Shadow Possession Jutsu, which will allow multiple of the Mamushi clones to be frozen in place for a critical strike by someone. So based off that, I see this foreshadowing by Ikimoto. He definitely wants Shikadai to come up big in this mission, and I can't wait to be honest. So we transition back to Kashin Koji and Enojin, and it seems like Enojin has a few questions for Koji, which includes a frustration that even Boruto had with Koji earlier on. Even though he knows what's going to happen in the future, why only tell them bits and pieces of information? And that's a pretty easy explanation. He tells Enojin that if he knew he was going to die, would he charge in to save Himawari? He probably would have hesitated. And if he hesitated, would Himawari go crazy and unleash the Nine-Tails power? That's a question to ask yourself. If Himawari doesn't fight Jiro with the Nine-Tails power, she might have gotten devoured. Or worse, everyone could have died in that interaction. It's as simple as that. And this just goes back to Boruto and Koji's argument. He was trying to explain this to Boruto, but he was not trying to hear it. If Boruto interfered too early with the mission in Sunagakure, Sarada would have not awoken to her Mangekyo Sharingan. That's bad for the future. And not only that, you increase the risk of Jiro pulling up and just wiping everyone out. So when it comes to time, you really have to be careful because you never know how your actions will affect the overall future. So the more ideal the future outcome is, the better to not let too many people know about it. Because as Koji said in chapter 16, to know the future leads to the act of destroying it. When you know a future, you can never act like you don't know it anymore. So this is what he was basically explaining to Enojin, who must have also been curious about what Boruto said to Koji back in chapter 26. So they continue to talk about basically the same thing as Koji explained to Boruto a few years ago, until Koji reveals a very surprising future where Eida becomes a tree and another future where Himawari dies. I love when the story does this. It literally shows us the stakes and lets us know what they're fighting to prevent, just how scary it can look. You don't really see these dark themes often from Kishimoto. It just goes to show how different they are as artists. Ikimoto showed us that he's willing to kill off characters as he did with Yodo. So I really think this could become a reality if they're not careful. Especially with Eida's case, I can see it a little more. And then it makes us question a few things. Like, if Eida is dead or turned into a tree, where the hell is Damon? Is he dead? Was he shinjified as well? It just gives us more hype as to what happened to make this future occur. So Koji tells Enojin to work together with him to assure that these futures doesn't happen. So moving on, we now see Shikamaru starting to communicate with everyone that's going to be a part of this operation. And the purpose for this is to properly explain the plan to everyone that was not a part of the call between him, along with Koji, Enojin, and Boruto. So now from the information Koji has given Shikamaru, he's now going to spread this information to everyone else. And this is the example of why Shikamaru was so important as the Hokage. Because his position allows him to do things like this. It allows him to be the middleman between Koji and everyone else in Konoha. So he starts explaining the operation to everyone that's going to be a part of this operation, whether that be combat or behind the scenes. Chocho and Himawari, Eida, Sarada, Damon, Konohamaru, Mitsuki, Delta, Kawaki, Amato, Boruto, and Sumire. So Shikamaru explains that everyone a part of this call is going to be involved in this mission. And this selection of people is based off people who don't completely hate Boruto's guts and are willing to work beside him. And because of the village branding him as a criminal, they can expect actions that will interfere with his movement. So he says that each member must support Boruto's movements inside the village while still remaining alert to enemy threats. Then he explains the second most important aspect of the mission: communication. You see Enojin's new ability, which is called Shinjutsu, mind transmission, a dedicated communication line created through Enojin. So here's how it works. The part where they communicate is the same as the usual mind transmission. What's different is the fact that each person connected acts as a receiver and can detect the vibrations of objects in their surroundings. Every object, living or not, emits its own vibration frequency. And since they can't locate Mamushi using chakra, this is how they're going to have to do it. They're going to pinpoint the exact location of all the clones by using vibration frequency. So basically, once you're nearby a clone, Enojin and Shikamaru will relay that information to them, so they know exactly where they're at and how many clones are in the area. But the amount of people who can talk simultaneously through Shinjutsu isn't very large, which is why not a lot of people are involved in this operation. So what I took from this conversation is basically, this is where we're going to see a lot of other characters finally start fighting more, like Damon, Delta, and even Mitsuki. More side characters are going to start getting shine. Even characters like Delta, who hasn't even fought yet into the vortex. It's finally time for all-out war to break out in Konoha. So expect a solo video on this whole operation and some potential matchups we can hope to see from this mission. So right after Shikamaru finishes talking, they find out Mamushi is already in Konoha and they relay that information to everyone. So Shikamaru tells the location of the Mamushi clone to everyone, and Boruto springs into action immediately using FTG. As he's heading towards there, we get to see Eida, Sarada, and Damon's thoughts on the situation some more. Eida expresses her disgust on the situation, but Damon assures her that he won't let Mamushi lay a finger on her. But now that I'm seeing what happens to Eida in the future, I'm not so sure if that's true. Hey, Damon could be on potential fraud watch, so we gotta keep a heavy eye on him. Sarada also says she wanted to go, but Shikamaru told her not to because there's probably more clones. She needs to stay in a specific part of Konoha and protect it. So he assigns a location to every team involved. Team 10 heads to the eastern part of District D, and Team 7 holds the northern part of District B. Shikamaru contacts Mitsuki and asks him about his current situation. He tells him that he doesn't think he'll be released anytime soon, so he tells him to be patient and wait until the right time to make his move. Make use of the commotion in the village and then just get the heck out of there, basically. So the operation is simple. Certain teams will stay and patrol specific parts of the village. Their target is Eida. Boruto is going to use FTG to jump to each location, and Kawaki will provide support to each team according to the situation. And of course, Enojin and Shikamaru will let them know when they're close to a clone and relay their exact location to them. So now it's time for the operation to commence. We transition to Mamushi, and he's trying to press random Konoha citizens in revealing Eida's location. Right then and there, Boruto swoops down and slashes Mamushi and demolishes the clone. Also note how he was able to destroy the eyes, so it can't divide any further. And it looks like he sliced him twice with one swing. I don't know what that's all about, but it looks cool. It could be linked to the new material Sumire put in his sword, but I guess we'll find out in a later chapter. After this, the fighting continues, with the other Mamushi dividing into what seems to be 3 other clones. And they start fighting Boruto relentlessly. He's taking them out one by one, making sure to slice their eyes. So one of the clones strike Boruto, he gets away from the attack, but then one of them uses a fire-based technique against Boruto, leaving him with no other choice but to activate his karma and absorb the attack before it could burn down any of the nearby buildings. Which leads us on the craziest possible cliffhanger, with Boruto finally activating his karma seal. And that's it for the chapter. So you see, all the building Ikimoto did built up into what we see now. The payoff is elite. So now next chapter is going to be even more crazy, because for the first time into the vortex, we're going to see Boruto fight with his karma. So with that, I give this chapter a solid 8 out of 10. Told us everything we need to know, and judging off what we can expect later, it makes me that much more hyped for it to release. But let me know what you think. Was this chapter a hit or a miss for you? What was your favorite parts of the chapter, and what are you most excited for next chapter? And without further ado, if you guys liked the video and don't mind seeing more like this in the near future, go ahead and like the video, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you know whenever I upload or go live for chapter spoilers. And until my next one, I'll see you boys and girls later. And I'm out. Peace.